Welcome to On This Day, where we look back at the moments that made history, one day at a time. From major world events to the weird and unexpected, every date has a story. So, what happened on 7th of August? Let's find out. August 7th is one of those days that really shows history's range. It's got moments of exploration and invention, battles that shifted power, laws that changed lives, and a few unexpected cultural milestones. So get comfortable as we travel through time and see what makes today so fascinating. In 1782, George Washington created the Badge of Military Merit, which would eventually become the Purple Heart. It was one of the first military awards given directly to soldiers for bravery, and even today, it remains one of the most respected honors in the U.S. Armed Forces. On this day in 1942, U.S. Marines landed on Guadalcanal in the Solomon Islands. It was the first major Allied offensive against Japan in World War II. The fighting was brutal and went on for months, but it marked a turning point in the Pacific War. Back in 1959, the United States launched Explorer 6, the satellite that sent back the very first pictures of Earth from space. They were grainy and black and white, but seeing our planet from above for the first time was nothing short of awe-inspiring. In 1789, the United States Department of War was created. It might sound ominous, but it was the early version of today's Department of Defense, setting up a formal structure for managing the country's military forces in those first fragile years. August 7, 1978, saw President Jimmy Carter declare a federal emergency at Love Canal in New York. Families there were living on top of toxic waste buried decades earlier. It was one of the first times environmental disaster hit the headlines in such a big way and helped launch the modern environmental movement. On this day in 1990, President George H.W. Bush ordered U.S. troops to Saudi Arabia as part of Operation Desert Shield. It was the first big move leading up to the Gulf War as the world responded to Iraq's invasion of Kuwait. In 1927, the Peace Bridge opened between Buffalo, New York and Fort Erie, Ontario. It was a literal bridge between nations, built to celebrate over a century of peace between the U.S. and Canada. Even today, it's a busy, symbolic link between neighbors. August 7, 1947, was when Thor Heyerdahl's Kon-Tiki raft landed in the Tuamotu Islands. He and his crew sailed over 4,000 miles from Peru on a wooden raft to prove that ancient people could have made similar journeys. It was part science experiment, part daring adventure story. Love discovering what happened on this day in history? Hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss an upload. In 1964, Congress passed the Gulf of Tonkin Resolution, giving President Lyndon B. Johnson broad powers to escalate U.S. involvement in Vietnam. It was a turning point that would lead to years of intense, controversial conflict. On this day in 1957, Oliver Hardy of the famous comedy duo Laurel and Hardy passed away. With his partner Stan Laurel, he created some of the most beloved slapstick films ever made, making generations laugh with timeless, silly humor. In 1909, Alice Hyler Ramsey finished her historic cross-country drive, becoming the first woman to drive coast-to-coast across the United States. She covered over 800 miles in a time before good roads or maps, proving women could be just as adventurous behind the wheel. August 7th, 1970 saw one of the most dramatic moments of the Black Power movement when Jonathan Jackson tried to kidnap a judge in California to demand freedom for prisoners. The attempt ended in a deadly shootout, showing just how tense and turbulent the era could be. In 1888, Theophilus Van Cannel received a patent for the revolving door. It might seem like a small thing, but it helped buildings save heat, control traffic flow, and became an architectural feature you see in hotels, office buildings, and department stores all over the world. And in 2008, the Summer Olympics opened in Beijing with one of the most elaborate and stunning opening ceremonies ever seen. Billions watched as China put on a show of history, art, and spectacle that set a new standard for Olympic ceremonies. That's what happened on 7th of August throughout history. Made it this far? Drop your favorite historical fact in the comments. Learned something new? Hit subscribe and come back tomorrow. You never know what the past has in store.